This week on Gunn On One, I get a chance to speak with the Eagles quarterback fans love to hate and my good friend Donovan McNabb. We speak about the recent tie with the Cincinnati Bengals while reminiscing about his own tie with the same team over a decade ago. We talk about the current state of the Eagles organization, how he views Carson Wentz's current struggles, and the adversity that comes with it all. McNabb reflects on his time in Philadelphia, giving me an inside look at his many experiences with the fan base and the media. Finally, we talk about what he's been doing in retirement with coaching, training, and mentoring young athletes. Not only will Five always love you, but he's ready to tell it like it is on this edition of Gunn On One. Good day, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Gunn On One, the podcast. I'm Derrick Gunn. Of course, 3 weeks now are in the books, and oh my goodness, I don't know what to say about the Philadelphia Eagles right now. They are 0-2-1, and who would have thought that in their first 3 games that would have entailed the Washington football team and the Cincinnati Bengals, this Eagles team would still be winless. You can't just blame it on one facet. You can blame it on the head coach. You can blame it on the coordinators. You can blame it on the assistant coaches. But a lot of people are putting the blame front and center on the franchise quarterback Carson Wentz for the demise of this team right now. So on this particular podcast, I've decided to bring in a quarterbacking expert, someone who has given me grief for the last 20 years. The one, the only, the man who will ever be known for Five will always love you, Donovan McNabb. How you doing, D-Mac?
I'm doing outstanding. I tell you, it's perfect timing, ain't it? With me coming on after another terrible game. And people want to constantly try to compare the two, really, with Carson and myself and Doug and Andy. But there's light at the end of the tunnel, I believe, and everyone needs to just relax before they start jumping off the Ben Franklin Bridge.
Did you ever think, when you looked at this Eagles schedule after 3 games, considering who was on the schedule, that they still will not have a win on the ledger?
No. As I looked at the schedule months before they even reported, I looked at the schedule, and in the first 6 games, I thought at least they would be 4-2. I looked at the players in which they were bringing in. Deshaun Jackson was healthy. Zach Ertz was healthy, even though they went through a contract situation that didn't lean more of Zach's way, which I think now you have to really start second-guessing and getting it done. Dallas Goedert, I thought the offensive line of putting Jason Peters back at left tackle would have helped. Yeah. Lane Johnson being at the right tackle. This was before even Brooks got hurt. I thought they had everything they needed on offense. And defensively, I still question not drafting a corner or safety or something in the first couple rounds.
Yeah.
I thought they didn't pay attention to their secondary. They didn't pay attention to their linebacking crew throughout the draft of free agents. And I thought that would really hurt them in at least the first 8 games of the season before chemistry started to flow.
Okay, before we continue talking about the team, I have to ask you a personal question. You don't mind, do you?
No.
All right. Did you know that a game could end in a tie?
It's funny. Even though we laugh at it, what is it? Is it almost?
It was 2008. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, 12 years later, it's still a hot topic. It's a hot topic, but they still haven't gotten it right in the NFL. Because to be honest,
how so?
I just think all the rule changes that they've made throughout the years with the kickoff and the punt situation, and the points in overtime, people still want to see football. They still want to see football, and we're talking about a tie at this particular point when people want to see more.
Yeah,
they want to see more. Now, did they want to see more of the Eagles on offense? Or did you want to see Joe Burrow have a chance to drive them down to do something?
Mm-hmm.
So I just think where the NFL is at this particular point, even though that it's a topic of conversation anytime a tie happens, and my name comes up, which thank you so much for keeping me relevant. But I mean, it's still one in question where everyone's trying to figure out the next move.
When you uttered that statement back in 2008, did you stop and say to yourself, "Oh my goodness, why did I just say that"?
No. Because if you recall, even years after, other players from other teams mentioned the same thing.
You're right. You're right.
Because we have meetings. We have meetings with referees and the rule changes and things of that nature in training camp, and that's never anything that they emphasize. And so when you come from college, it's, hey, you get the ball, you get a chance to score. Now they get a chance, they go down and score. Now the next time you get a chance to go, if you kick a field goal, you got to hold them. And then, no one ever thinks about it too much in the NFL, because how many ties really happen before mine actually happened in Cincinnati? So you're not even thinking about that. And and I remember, vividly, I remember Andy mentioning it to the ref, and the ref said, well, we'll have another 5 minutes if this ends. So I wasn't the only one. The referee didn't know.
Right.
Ownership of me making the statement, which a lot of people like to bring it up, but you know what? There's been ties after that. And there will be more ties as we go forward.
All right, as we move ahead to the current state of the team, let's hone in on the quarterback, because that's where everybody in Philadelphia wants to lay the blame right now. When you look at what Carson Wentz is, oh yeah, you know what that's like, right? Now, when you look at the current state of what Carson Wentz has gone through, 6 interceptions now in 3 games. He's averaged only 7 interceptions a season over the last 3 seasons. What are you seeing from your perspective in terms of what Carson is going through?
I think he's pressing right now. I thought the first half of the Washington football team, that game, I thought it was a Carson that we all kind of expected, spreading the ball around, getting people involved. I thought in the second half, he was riding that wave to try to continue the momentum going. And after the first turnover, it was a domino effect. He started playing cautious. I thought in the second game, he came out immediately playing cautious. In this game, it seems like he told himself, you know what, I'm just going to be free. I'm just going to go out and play. Because that seems like something that Doug would tell him. Hey, I want you to just be yourself. If you see something, attack it. If not, then use your legs. And to me, it just, after 1 or 2 turnovers or 3 and outs, you start now to question yourself. And, is it that he's questioning his ability? I don't know if he's questioning his ability, but he's questioning the result. And at this point, I mean, no matter, he's human. He's human. And I tried to tell people years ago when people say, oh, well, he's hating, and it's not being hating.
Right.
It's just from an analyst standpoint. People fail to realize I'm an analyst.
Right.
That's what my job entitles me to do. People call me to break down different things, and I can only be honest. So I think you can only ride the wave for so long when people are giving you opportunities. But at some point, they're going to now start to look back at your resume and start to dig deep into your play. And now they're starting to dig deep into his decision-making, which as a quarterback, you could talk about my ability. You could talk about, the way I played. But once you go into my decision-making, and I've been the starting quarterback for 5 years or so, then now we got an issue.
Do you think, 2 questions in one, do you think them drafting Jalen Hurts in the 2nd round has a direct effect on his overall play? And do you think the message, the organization deliberately is sending him a message, look, we paid you a lot of money, you got to step your game up?
Let me go with the second one first.
Okay.
Do I feel that the organization is kind of looking at it right now like this is a make or break year? Yes. Because if you really look at his contract, I think money's not guaranteed after next year. So they have to look at this year as being a deciding factor year. If so they have another year like they had last year, but don't make the playoffs, they're going to understand Howie Roseman is on the hot seat, no matter how you look at it. He's on the hot seat. Doug is still on the hot seat. And so now that leaves Carson, who was your highest paid player, and you're paying him as if he was a top 5 player. And so, when you look at all around just where he's at throughout his career with the injuries, no playoff wins, things of that nature. And in Philadelphia, people want to see playoff games.
Right.
They want to go and tailgate for second-round playoff games, home field advantage, NFC Championship, and they haven't had that since Nick. Nick was there. And so I just think for Carson at this particular point, it's a make-or-break year. And what the organization did, which I don't think they really did it purposely,
right.
But these are the cards that they kind of dealt, because I mentioned it after they drafted Jalen Hurts. You don't realize what you have done for Carson going forward. Because if he struggles like he's doing now, you're going to have to now create more plays for Jalen Hurts, which the crowd is now going to start to chant his name. And then for what we're seeing from, Lamar Jackson and, even Taysom Hill, they wanted to kind of compare Taysom Hill and Jalen Hurts. And I said, that's disrespectful to Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is a Heisman Trophy candidate who should have won last year. So he can do much more than just be a running gadget kind of quarterback. So what you're going to see now, and I believe he had, 3-4 plays in this past game?
Yeah.
You're going to see about 5 or 6. All of a sudden it grows. And it'll be first downs it'll be some, incredible touchdowns or something. And the crowd's going to start cheering his name, and it's going to start to affect Carson.
Do you think it's affecting his game already, though?
I don't think it's affecting his game now because, they have reassured many times that Carson is the guy. And Carson knows he's the guy. So I don't think that he's looking over his shoulder by any means at Jalen Hurts. I just think right now he's starting to look himself in the mirror and try to figure out answers, of what's going on at this point.
Do you think in any way Carson is rattled by the negative criticism? I mean, you look at his career. He's always been the golden boy on campus when he was at North Dakota State. He came here as a number 2 pick. He was supposed to be the savior of this organization. People were rolling out the red carpet for him. Things were going well. His career kept getting better from 2016 to 2017, MVP candidate until he got hurt. And then he willed this team to win a division title last year with a bunch of receivers walking in off the streets. I don't think Carson is used to having this kind of negative darts thrown at him.
No, he hasn't. I mean, he's definitely looked upon as the savior. I mean, it's one in which it's good on one end, obviously, as a player, when you see that people are acceptant of you and your ability and appreciate what you can bring to the table. And then the negative aspect of it is how quickly they turn on you. And so that was one thing that I tried to emphasize early on through his career is you can only ride the wave for so long. And you need to ride the wave as a player while you're continuing to get better and your team's getting better. Hey, we go through ups and downs as a football team. They play well, defense may not. Defense plays well, offense may not. But you can't go through games where both sides play bad. And when both sides play bad, now you're leaning on the kicking game? That's not going to win games right now in the NFL, because I thought that the season would start out where the defense would be more dominant to allow offenses to start to gel a little bit because of missing the preseason and deep training camps. But now we're starting to see teams coming out scoring 35, 40 points a game.
That's right.
And defenses are starting to struggle by giving up 35, 30 points a game. And then when you look at where the Eagles are at this point, and they have weapons to score points. It's just you're starting to ask yourself why. What's going on? What are they missing? To me, I said this last year. They needed to get the ball to Zach Ertz more. Zach Ertz is one of the top 5 tight ends in this game. And people would argue if he's top 3, top 4. Now Mark Andrews has kind of moved into that spot. Only because the Eagles have shied away from targeting Zach Ertz and now start targeting Dallas Goedert more. Which you start to really question, is it because of contract situation? Is Zach really healthy? Why aren't they throwing the ball to Zach Ertz? And so that's Carson's security blanket. When you want to get in rhythm, hey, you get back to the guys will make plays for you. And that's where you go. He just hasn't had that. And as a quarterback, it's tough.
See, Zach Ertz, though, he's got money on his mind right now. Things are not going well for Zach Ertz in his money situation. But you got to, Gunn, you know this too, man. Yeah. Hey, man, when you deserving of money. Yep.
And you know that you've done everything that you possibly could for that organization, and they're trying to lowball you.
Yeah.
You play pissed off. And when you play pissed off at a tight end position, you can't solidify yourself unless your quarterback throws you the ball.
That's right.
He's not a blocking tight end. He's a receiving tight end. So that catch that he had on the corner route, man-to-man coverage that Carson threw, that was a great catch. Yep. It was a great throw, but it's kind of like you start to ask, well, he should have about 6 or 7 more of those. What is going on?
Now, you went through a lot of the things that Carson's going through. You had the highs, you had the lows, and I can remember at times when things were going bad, you would stand at the podium and try to crack a joke to lighten the mood for a moment. But in a general sense, how did you deal with all the negativisms when they started coming your way?
See, I knew how to handle that. That was my major in college, speech communication,
right,
and then broadcasting. So I know how to change the climate of a room. You know that. I can bring a little something to the table where I can get people at ease. And I knew after games like that, first of all, as a player, you're pissed off because you haven't been able to play at your caliber, play at the level that you set for yourself. Mm-hmm. Second, you're going to go off into a room where, people are just going to pepper you with negative questions. And then thirdly, one thing as a quarterback you have to do is you have to stand up there and take it and be bulletproof and just give your answer and try to be honest as possible and take ownership and be accountable for it. Because even when you take ownership of it and be accountable, they're still going to try to figure out ways to try to get deep into your skin. Mm-hmm. And one thing I wouldn't allow them to do is to get deep into my skin. And so I knew how to handle the lows and the negativity. That's why people got mad at me because they always say, "Oh, well, you're always smiling," or you always think everything's funny. That's what you know. What I know is I can get you to think about something else by the way I act, by the way that what I say. So I can control the narrative of the whole situation due to how you're looking and what questions you're asking.
So you're saying you had a bachelor's degree in Jedi mind tricks? Is that what you're telling me?
Well, it was ghetto tricks. It was growing up in the city of Chicago where I can read your mind and change what you're thinking.
Something's wrong with you, man. Something is still wrong with you today. Hey, have you ever had a chance to talk to Carson on a personal basis and just give him insight on how to handle a lot of situations in life, both as an athlete, as a businessman?
I haven't talked to Carson in a couple of years. And when I did, that was kind of the direction that I talked about. Like I told him, I said, I can care less about the wins. I can care less about, all the hoopla and all. What you have to do is you have to block that out. Because I told him the same people that are patting you on the back and want to ride with you are going to be the same people that's going to stab you in the back. And so the conversation that I've had with him was more or less about how to handle yourself through this media, outside with the fans, and then understanding where your safe haven is. Your safe haven is being with your family. Because, I could go home after a terrible loss and my wife won't talk about the game. And then with my kids won't even talk about the game. So we can kind of focus on something else. But then you also got to take into account where every time that I had said something in the media, being an analyst, then the fans and the radio shows and everybody would talk negative about me. So now that led to Carson and some of his teammates trying to come at me. Carson already said he wouldn't get involved, blah, blah, blah. Then you had Lane Johnson kind of throw darts at me. And then you had some of the players, he's my guy, blah, blah, blah. And nobody really cares about you anymore. First of all, I can care less who cares about me. I got 5 people in this house who truly love me with my mom and dad and then my in-laws. So I don't have to worry about that. I think these players get caught up too much on who likes them and who likes them on social media and who's following them. Once you're going to learn, when that ball drops and them shoes get unlaced and you done, you got another chapter of your life you have to focus on.
I've talked to a lot of ex-football players, and I've always asked them the question, man, why aren't you coaching in the NFL today? And the consensus has been, man, I can't coach these players nowadays. You can't coach these players. Do you agree that these players nowadays are too sensitive?
Well, I won't go with the sensitive aspect because, people rub that the wrong way.
Right.
What I will say is these kids are more like divas, and that's because they are coddled, they're patted on the back, they are praised for little things that they do. But in the grand scheme of things, these kids don't understand. Like I talked about, those same people who smile in your face will be the same ones that are talking negative behind your back. So the way that you try to coach these kids, and I'm doing that right now with some of these young kids, is I'm teaching them the pathway to success. One is focusing in on your job, perfecting your craft. Another is make sure you're well prepared at all times. Three is to lead. Make sure you be a leader and be vocal, be up front in front of everybody to set the tone. And at the end of the day, step away from the game. Step away from the game and clear your head. Because football does not define who you are as a person. Football is what you do.
Right.
That's where you work. Now, who you are as a person, people will see that of how you carry yourself, what you represent. Can you be in a room and be friendly to others? Are you arrogant? That's things that people look at. They can care less that you play football. Because at this point, some of these kids that I train, they have no clue that I played for Philadelphia.
Wow. That means you're old.
They hear from their parents.
Right.
That's the thing. They have Google, so they Google me, and then they're like, "Oh, Coach Donovan, I didn't know that you played in the Final Four in college basketball. I didn't know that you went to 5 NFC championships. Wow, I didn't know that you made 6 Pro Bowls. You must have been really good." And it's like, you know what? I was okay. I played with a good team. I had a great coach, but I worked. I worked my butt off, and that's what I'm asking you to do. And these kids respect that.
I love when athletes tell you when things are going bad for them, "Oh, I don't listen to the media. I don't listen to TV, radio, and so on and so forth." Even if they don't listen to it directly, they have family members, friends, relatives telling them what's going on. And how they handle those situations, because a lot of people aren't used to being attacked publicly. And it's a matter of how they handle this. And now I wonder internally what's going on with Carson, because he's not used to this kind of negative attack that's being thrown his way now in Philadelphia.
Did I listen to the negativity of hoopla? I did.
No, you didn't. You really. Okay.
I knew exactly who said what, because the reason I did, you got to understand, I'm a speech communication major,
right?
Dealing with journalism and broadcasting. So I'm going to know who it is that said what, because when I see you now, my feelings and emotions go to another direction.
Right.
Because you come in my face with the mic and be like, "Oh, you look great out there. You play well." And it's like, but wait a minute, didn't just 2 weeks ago you said I was the worst, or I was the reason we lost the game, or, but I'm saying that in my mind.
Right,
so important. It's important. And players will say they don't listen, but they do. They do. I mean, and family members aren't the ones who are telling them. You hear it yourself. You hear it yourself. And then in the questions that you get asked, every other day, you start to look at the person like, wow, you really feel that way. But you have to be a bigger man about it and not let it affect the common goal. The common goal, again, is for you to go out and lead your team to wins. People lose the sight of what winning is all about. Winning is all about somebody or some group played well in order for you to win. Now, you hope that it's your group that you led to win. But if you win, now you can go to the film room and correct your mistakes so that now you can secure the next win. See, as a player, you so worried about numbers and, where I'm ranked and all this. That makes no difference. See, people don't understand that, because I'll give you a perfect example. You knew how I was, Gunny.
Right. Yep.
It was about winning, because we're defined as quarterbacks by your winning percentage. Now they want to add, they've been adding years for certain people. How many Super Bowls has he won? Or how many times he was all pro? No, but what was my winning percentage?
Right.
Where did I take my team as the starting quarterback? That's the key thing. And for these young kids, I'm old. But look at what Russell Wilson has done. Russell Wilson has been, people don't realize, over a decade now, Russell Wilson has led his team to at least close to or with double-digit wins.
That's right.
With no receiver that any other team could say, yeah, we need to stop him. And he's been 75% of the offense or more over the last 7 years. And he hasn't had one or I'll say double-digit MVP votes.
Right.
So we want to talk so much about, wow, Patrick Mahomes is the greatest quarterback I've ever seen, or Aaron Rodgers, he's one of the best I've ever seen, which I think is a slap in everybody's face.
Mm-hmm.
But Russell Wilson is a true winner, and you give the ball to Russell with 2 minutes to go late in the game and see what happens. And it ain't gonna go well for you.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up Russell Wilson because Russell Wilson is one of 6, 7, 8 African-American starting quarterbacks in the National Football League now. When you played, it was somewhat of an
10. There was
10. And when you played, though, it was what? A novelty. It was considered a novelty back then. Give me your thoughts on how the complexion of the quarterback game has changed in the NFL now.
I said this, I remember when the whole discussion went on with Rush Limbaugh at ESPN. Remember when I talked about this is not about me, this is about the kids on the high school and Pop Warner level, and then in college, when they see guys like myself, Dante Culpepper, Byron Leftwich, Aaron Brooks, when they see Sean King, when they see guys like us, and then you have the Vince Youngs and Michael Vick and those guys, but they feel like my dream can come true. Like I have a chance of playing in the National Football League. I've so many guys that are younger than me told me they wore number 5 because I was their idol.
Right.
And kids to this day, you look back on what number they wore in high school, they wore number 5. So what I did was, and myself and those guys I mentioned, I got the torch from Randall and Rodney and those guys, and they got it from Doug and James Harris. We're passing the torch. But what the torch is now, the torch is now separated, where now everyone's passing it. Look at what Cam Newton is doing.
Yep.
Cam Newton is getting paid $1 million, probably with incentives that reach probably to $5 million for the New England Patriots. And right now, the New England Patriots look like they might represent in the AFC Championship. Look at what Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes are doing. When you got two MVPs playing against each other tonight, where it's going to be one in which it's going to be exciting and box office, type of game.
Right.
Then we continue to go with Deshaun Watson. Dak Prescott, if Jerry Jones was sitting right in front of me right now, I would throw some powder on my hand and I'll slap.
Why?
You have killed yourself because now the price tag went from where you want to pay him at about 34, 35 million. The price tag now has skyrocketed to 41. It's now, you should have took care of it when you did. You should have had that 4-year deal like you should have done instead of trying to give him 5. But now Dallas looks outstanding on offense. If they could just start games fast. If they start fast, they'll be a much better football team. But Dak Prescott has proven, he's one of the top quarterbacks in this league.
When you look at what a lot of players are doing in terms of taking a stance in light of what has happened this past spring and summer with the Black Lives Movement and how they're trying to protest, give me your perspective on what players are trying to do to bring even further awareness to the situation.
Well, I think with it all, I appreciate what Adam Silver has done with the NBA of allowing these guys to be spokesmen. And also, let me add the WNBA as well. They have created a platform where we can now spread the awareness of our disagreement and our feelings toward how we've been treated as African Americans. And to the point where now, as a Caucasian American, any other minority ethnicity out there, now we have to truly focus on what's happened in the past, where the injustice system, inequalities to, from defaming to, kind of trying to show your authority over someone because you feel like I'm much more privileged than you.
Right.
This has now become such a focus because, with Breonna Taylor, I mean, it's frustrating what you're still hearing from Breonna Taylor. And I've got 2 daughters.
Right.
I heard Robert Horry said on TV out in L.A. where he had to explain to his kids while driving that they have to be cautious. They have to hit their hands on the steering wheel, try to do everything it is that they tell you. And as a parent, we worry about what may happen to our kids. It's devastating and it's terrifying when you have kids of your own and you send them out into the world because you just don't know. And so I think where the NFL has been stuck, the NFL was stuck because of what the NBA did. So they tried to do something to try to slow down, I think, the kneeling. Because remember, that was an issue because Donald Trump said so. That, it was about the bottom line. The bottom line was about the money. And so, there was, because if I recall, there were owners who said they wouldn't sign Kaepernick.
Right.
I wouldn't bring him in. Now, all of a sudden, people trying to change the tune because they see what the hot topic is. But still, I haven't seen as much from an NFL standpoint as I've been seeing from the NBA standpoint of being able to spread the awareness and get that out there.
Okay, so then how much does it irritate you when you hear the commissioner of the NFL, Roger Goodell, come out and say, we should have listened to Colin Kaepernick? And then all of a sudden you have an abundance of owners now who are donating millions of dollars to social injustice and racial discrimination, the same group of people that wouldn't do this just a few years ago.
But I don't, this is the masking part of it all.
Okay.
It's giving money. Because if you give money, you can say, oh, well, I donated. I need to hear your voice. I need to hear you come out to say I was wrong. I need to hear you come out and say I needed to support, especially for Philadelphia. I needed to support more of what Malcolm Jenkins was trying to do. For owners to come like the players did, the African-American players, the Major League Baseball and NFL came out and did the video. I need to see Jerry Jones come out and say something about the situation. Remember, he tried to have his team kneel before the national anthem.
Right.
Both up and held hand. That was all just for TV. That was all for TV. And so when people can say, well, they're donating money. Okay, that's great. But they need your time. They need your voice. Because when you speak, people listen. When you donate money, people don't know it.
Do you think we will ever see a definitive change in this country? Because I will say this, when all of the protests started happening, not just across the United States, but across the world, there was a multitude of different races and colors, arm in arm, protesting with people more so than we've ever seen before. Do you think we are on the brink of definitive change in our country?
I think we're moving in the right direction. I think the problem is the people who aren't a part of the protest, who are out destructing property, the ones who are attacking innocent people, the ones who are dressing up as if they're with the protest and with the cause, and just completely just doing things the opposite way than what you see of the peaceful protest. So now those people who aren't really with, the Black Lives Matter movement, they can use that as an excuse. Well, look, what I would have a gun too if anyone came and tear up my property coming to protest. That's not what it's about. And these, so I think, are we moving in the right direction? I believe as people of America, yes. But where does this start? It starts from the top. So if the top is not coming out and speaking on it, then he has his followers that are following his word and his actions. And so until people up at the top start to get more involved, trying to handle this situation and separate the couple parties, it just be the same.
I appreciate your insight and perspective on that topic. I'm going to bring it back to football for just a minute, if I could. And I want to ask you, before I forget, if you could, would you want to play in today's NFL when you look at how they've changed the rules to protect the quarterbacks, the money that is now just flowing around for quarterbacks in the National Football League? And honestly, I don't think you have 32 legitimate starting quarterbacks in the NFL right now. Do you wish you were playing in the game today?
You know what? It's tough to say. I mean, I enjoyed the time that I played.
Right.
You know, I don't want to be that old guy. Like you hear some of the old players say, well, if I played in this time, I would probably average about 35, 40 points a game in basketball, or I'll probably throw for 5,000 yards. I enjoyed the time that I played. I enjoyed the players that I played with. The money is definitely a whole lot different, which you can look at it in that way. But I'm better off. I'm not struggling by any means. I'm doing well for myself and my family. Mm-hmm. I'm healthy. You know, I can walk around with my kids and take them to practice and games and play basketball and football with them if I need to. So I don't look back or kind of look in that situation and say, well, the what ifs. No, I'm fine with where I was.
Nick Foles wins this organization's first ever Super Bowl. Donovan McNabb statistically is the greatest quarterback in the history of the Philadelphia Eagles. Does it bother you that they don't have a statue of Donovan McNabb in Philadelphia?
No. It doesn't at all. My name is up in the stadium. My name is up in the stadium for a reason. And again, would you like to have a statue? I think everybody would love to have a statue. I mean, right. You know, that just solidifies your greatness to that organization. You know, but one thing it does, though, if I was still playing, I would be pissed off that statue is up there and I'm the starting quarterback when I was the starting quarterback when it happened. That's people don't realize how tough that is for Carson. Yeah. You know, and then you really have to question like the thought process that went into that. Like when they first made that decision, I was like, oh, that's a bad move. Yep. That's a bad move for all the great players that have played throughout this organization. Yes, you won a Super Bowl. And not only do you win a Super Bowl, but you won a Super Bowl with a guy who wasn't your franchise quarterback. You know, when you have your franchise quarterback that was there hurt that year, and he came back that next year to start. So although everyone is excited I was excited for him. You know, I was in Minnesota for that whole festivity. I didn't go to the game because I didn't get no tickets or didn't even get invited, but that's another story. But I was there in Minnesota, you know, for work, and I ended up leaving that weekend and watching the game somewhere else. But I'm happy for them for winning. I wanted to be the quarterback to win the Super Bowl for our organization, but I'm glad somebody did.
Why do you think the Philadelphia fan base loves to hate Donovan McNabb?
Because I'm honest. Because they've known that none of their criticism or none of anything that they even think about me really matters to me. And I've proven that each and every year while I was playing. And so to this day, you know, they want to continuously bring up things that I say, but then it always comes back tenfold, don't it? Everything that I said, it always comes back. So nobody wants to say that I'm right. I've had a lot of people call me over the last couple of weeks, or text me or whatever, like, man, you were right. Like, try to tell you. I mean, you know, y'all don't only listen to what you want to listen to. But I've been in the situation. I've analyzed the whole situation, and now I see it. And so I just say it. And people can't take honesty. As much as people want everyone to be honest, people can't take it. They can't take it.
Do you come back to Philadelphia much?
I come back for appearances and autograph signings and things of that nature. I got a lot of friends still, you know, that I call like my family members out there. So I come back and see my people and spend some time with them.
When you look back on your career in Philadelphia, tell me the one single proudest moment that you have of wearing a Philadelphia Eagles uniform.
My very first win. Well, first of all, being drafted by Philadelphia was number one. To be drafted number 2 pick overall to the Philadelphia Eagles with Andy Reid, that was my first accomplishment.
Okay.
My second was my very first win. And as it continues on, just after that, it was just big win after big win, or playoff appearances, NFC Championship appearances, Super Bowl appearance. And there's no true rankings after the first 2. Everything just kind of goes in order. And then to top it off, the cherry on the cake was on top of the cake for me was to have my number retired in the stadium. And so that to me, is a athlete's dream. I grew up in the city of Chicago where I wanted to be Michael Jordan. I wanted to run and own things like Michael Jordan. I wanted to perfect my craft like Michael Jordan. At the end of the day, I wanted my name up in the rafters where my kids could come and see that dad did something. My kids' could come back and see grandpa did something. And that's something that's very special to me that I had that opportunity to do it.
What is the worst memory you have of being a Philadelphia Eagle? If you could change one thing, do you say to yourself, man, I wish I could go back and redo this? What would it be?
It's easy to point at the Super Bowl and wish that you could have changed a few things. I think for all of us, myself, and I talked to Jim Kelly too, when we both talked about it, if we could have just won one, or, if we could have won 2, or, just one, it starts at 1.
Right.
But if I could change anything in that game, that would be one. I would say probably if I could change anything, I didn't agree with the whole trade deal when I got traded to Washington. I felt there was no reason for me to be traded. I know, but how they kind of want to go with the young wave. I wished I could have finished my career in Philadelphia.
Yep.
And if I would have got 13 years, if I would have got 15 years, being in Philadelphia and just saying, you know what, I appreciate everything that everyone has done for me. My teammates, my coaches, the fans. I would have just loved to retire as an Eagle and not play with anyone else.
You mentioned that Super Bowl you played in a couple of times, and there were a number of your teammates that came out later, especially in hindsight of so-called Spygate, that the New England Patriots cheated to a win. Do you honestly believe the Patriots knew what you guys were trying to run in that game?
I don't know. It's easy to say that, especially with everything that's going on with the league. And then you look at the years and you're like, hey, wait a minute. Yeah, we played on that. Yeah, they cheated too. But I don't know. I guess, you have to have an upper hand on something. You got to get an edge. Yeah. And what it is, if that's the case of what they did, so, as our grandparents used to say, shame on you.
Yeah.
But we still got to play the game. We still got to play the game, no matter if they did or not. We still got to play the game, and just we weren't as good as we should have been on Super Bowl Sunday.
So Donovan McNabb, now ex-athlete, has a whole lot of things going on in his life right now. And you were talking about coaching young men. What are you doing right now out in Arizona with young athletes?
Well, I'm staying busy. I'm training quarterbacks out here in Arizona. I have a great group of kids from the age of 10 to 17, 18. Also, I trained Khalil Tate, who originally was signed as a free agent to the Philadelphia Eagles. They were going to move him to wide receiver, which he's a quarterback from the University of Arizona. Mm-hmm. Trained him for pro day, which COVID kind of canceled that. So he never got a chance to showcase his ability to throw the ball and also throw it with timing and accuracy. So I think that hurt him. But I still am working to work with more future NFL players. I'm also coaching flag football for my 11-year-old son, Donovan Jr. I'm also coaching a flag football team, a girls' flag football team with my daughter.
Oh, my goodness, yeah.
The stage, and yes, I have no hair as it is, so I can't pull anything else. It is not easy, but it's fun. These girls are so fun. We had our first win last week. I'm also coaching girls AAU basketball. So obviously we finished in July. So that was something that I've enjoyed over the last couple of years. I'm an ambassador of Carrot Sports. My wife and I, and what that is what we try to do here in Arizona is we try to help low-income families have their kids have an opportunity to be showcased on the same platform as all the rest of the kids in club and AAU sports. Mm-hmm. So what we do is we fund them the opportunity to pay their dues, to have money for hotels and things of that nature, so that they can now have the opportunity to travel with a lot of these other kids who you see getting rewarded with offers to colleges because they had an opportunity to perform in front of college scouts.
Right.
That's what we're doing, not just in basketball, but we're doing it in soccer, volleyball, baseball, all the other sports that you could play. There's really no AAU or club for football. But for those other sports, we're definitely helping these young ladies and young men out to try to better their future. You
have 4 kids. Your oldest is 16. Your oldest daughter, 16 years old. Yes. Is she a pretty good high school athlete? She's a very good high school basketball player. I think she's a great softball player too. She plays high school softball. And I think sometimes these kids get embedded with one particular thing and they just kind of truly on that. So I'm the dad that's like, hey, in spring we're playing softball. And she's like, oh, well, I don't want to play softball, Right. So we're going through that. But she's a very good student. She's a very good basketball player, which her high school team won state last year and lost in a state championship the previous year in her freshman year. So they have a much better team coming back this year. So they should represent state again in 2020. Are you one of those dads who's constantly yelling from the stands, or because of who you are, you have to sit on your hands and bite your tongue a lot of time and not bring unwarranted attention to you? And you know how kids are nowadays, so you don't embarrass your child. I am that dad that is yelling from the sideline. Why am I not surprised? Hey, listen, I want perfection. Let's go. Oh, jeez. Let her be. Give her room, man. Hey, they can be when we get home and they go to their room. I'm going to let you know early what's going on. Oh, talk to man. You during the game. We're going to talk on the way home. And when we get home, we just let it go. Because I can't sit on my hands and not say anything. I'm not surprised. I can't. And my wife, she's just like, you are so embarrassing. And I'm like, I don't care. Like, because what I want is, my kids work extremely hard to get themselves to where they are. Right. I want the best for them. I don't want coaches, college coaches or whatever to say, well, she doesn't work hard, or we don't know if she truly loves the game. I don't want that to ever be a question, because I want their effort to be shown while they're right. So I just give them that extra push and talk to them a little bit during games. But I'm just being a dad. I told you, football is way past me. Right. I am dad now. I got daughters that I coach for the girls club in AAU. They call me dad, because I'll show up to their basketball games when they're playing in high school, and they're just like, oh, no, dad's here. Come on, man. It ain't even my daughter. I'm out there, girls I coach, and I'm like, pass the ball, shoot it. And they just look up in the stands. I'm like, yeah, shoot it. Hey, did you do what I tell you to do since you have a teenage daughter now? Because 2 of my 3 kids, my oldest 2 kids are daughters. And did you do what I told you to do? Hey, get yourself a gun, because when potential male suitors come to date your daughter, you got to give them the look. You got to give them that dad look. You said the male suitors. Yes, the male suitors. You have to give them the look. I don't go with the look. I'm an old school dad. I get the grab. When you get in and he's like, how you doing, Mr. McNabb? And you grab him by the shoulder and you give him one of those. Oh, listen, my goodness. That's abuse. Hey, I want some physical confrontation. Let's talk, brother. Like, I want to know what you're here for. What is wrong with you? Hey, man, you sit there with the gun, he just gonna look at, these kids don't care nowadays. You sit there with the gun, they probably got one too. So I'm gonna put these hands up. So you understand, oh man, this dude's serious.
Yes, brother, I am serious.
Hey, look, man, you're 6'3", about 280 pounds since I last saw you. You're intimidating.
Man, whoa.
I have to slip that one in there real quick. You about 280 now. You kind of swole up since you played. You were an athlete. You kind of swole up now.
I'm swollen up from lifting weights. Matter of fact, I had to work out this morning before this. I am not 280. So all y'all are not 280. See,
What are you not
I wasn't
about?
going to get on you with them 2 crosses on your neck. Looking like you was a lead singer for the Whispers.
Come on, man. And I can sing like the Whispers too, brother.
You about their height.
Oh, man, you're a mess, man. You know what? You were always one of my favorite athletes here in Philadelphia, man. I can't thank you for taking the time to come on D-Gunn's podcast. My final question to you is, it took me 5 years to get you to sit in front of a camera for D-Gunn. Whether I was doing quick slants for NBC, whether I was doing other platforms, you always had an excuse. I'd hear you on radio. I see you on somebody else's national TV, but you always, D-Gunn, you know you family to me, and I ask you for a favor. Oh, D-Gunn, I can't make it happen today. Why? Why did you treat me like that? Why?
Hey, first of all, your polo shirts was terrible.
I didn't buy them.
That was your work polo, and they gave you like the stuff at the bottom of the box. They didn't even take care of you. You know, and then I knew we weren't going to really be asking any real questions because we were going to start cracking jokes with each other.
Yeah.
But you know what, D-Gunn, to be honest with you, man, and you put stuff on Twitter, don't add me to it till I comment on you. You know, that's another thing.
Wait. Let's stop right there. Okay, now I'm going to bring up something that you and Brian Westbrook both responded to. It was probably about 6, 7, 8 months ago.
Brand was the best interview you
No. I said shout out through the years to a lot of guys who came on post-game live on a regular basis. Hugh Douglas, Brandon Graham. And you said, hey, what about me? And Brian Westbrook said, what about me? And I said, that's because you guys would only come on once a year. These were guys who would come on every week, win, lose, or draw. Yes. You did. You would diss me every week.
People ain't listening to that mess, D-Gunn. You ain't show us no love. You act like we was the extras and for the Temptations or something that just couldn't make the group. See, that's messed up. I still got it, like my man Fly.
How many times a season would I ask you to come on post-game shows and you would say, I ain't talking today, D-Gun. I already talked at the podium, D-Gun. We family, but D-Gun, you can look at the backside of me as I walk up into the sunset.
I was over there. Did I pop my head on the screen while
you did? You would give us a comical moment, yes. But I'm not. That's not what I'm talking about.
People want to see me smiling. They don't want to see me pissed off.
That's not what I'm talking about. See, you have yet to answer the question I asked you. Why would you diss D-Gun all the time like this? Why?
Didn't we talk about how I can change the narrative of the conversation?
Yes. And why didn't you come on and change the narrative of conversations?
My ghetto tactics are still working.
Something's wrong with you, man. But you know what? We sit here today, we laugh, we had some great times. We talked about a lot of stuff through the years, heartfelt stuff, football stuff, X's and O's. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your friendship and your trust that you had in me, because you and I had some real sit-down discussions about a lot of things through the years. And just like a lot of athletes that I know personally, I would never betray trust. And I think that's why you and I were able to have those conversations, because you understood that it will never go past us. It never has, never will. So even though it took you 5 years for me to get you on what is now personally my Gunn On One podcast, which is doing rather well, I might add, I can't thank you enough for sitting down and taking an hour, sit here, talk, and cut it up with D-Gun.
D-Gun, you just mentioned that wonderful number, and I know all about that. 5.
5 will always love you. Oh man, thank you so much, man. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Yeah. And so that's going to wrap up another incredible edition of Gunn On One, the podcast. For my special guest this week, Donovan McNabb, I can't thank him enough for all of his insights and perspectives on a number of topics we just talked about. Hope everybody tunes in again next week when I have another special guest. I never tell you who my guest is going to be, but another special guest will be coming up. Oh, yes, I do. I know. Oh, I know. You don't know, but I know. So for number 5, I'm Derrick Gunn. Thanks for listening in to Gunn On One, the podcast. Remember, everybody, have a blessed day, and more importantly, be a blessing to everybody you come in contact with. So long. One is a production of D. Gunn Enterprises in Patterson Square Garden. Elvin Shabazian and Wes Pendleton are the executive producers on behalf of Patterson Square Garden. Lead producer is Derrick Gunn. Associate producer is John McNeil. Sound design, mixing, and mastering by Elvin Shabazian. Original music by Weatherman. For more information about the podcast, visit GunnOnOne.com. And please don't forget to subscribe and give us a positive rating if you're feeling the show. Thank you.